some ways it's quite extraordinary that from 1980, since the Forest Conservation Act was passed, that no one ever raised the question of what about the people who live on or use the forest, which was centralized, the power to grant clearances, forest clearances was concentrated in Delhi in the hands of a handful of people. And it is as if there is nobody out there. The fact is that, in our country, the forested landscapes are the habitats not only of wildlife but also of people. And the forests are extremely complex ecosystems which have been, changed, modified, adapted over time. There's very little of the pristine, mythical pristine left there. But I think the entire thing with the forest clearance process is the total absence of people, any consideration that people exist. No? The one thing, and I think it went on for all these years mainly because the forest dwellers are the least organized and the most politically marginalized. They have no voice, they didn't know what hit them, and God knows how many people, especially a lot of forest villages created by the forest department itself, have just been swept away like rubbish, in the forest, dammed, submerged. God knows where they are. And then they are encroachers, elsewhere, once they move somewhere else. The entire countryside is littered with people who have been displaced by all these large projects, many of them living in forests. So I think that is one part. The second is, the entire Forest Conservation Act, and then later the Supreme Court order of 1996, which extended the FCA even to the dictionary definition of forest, irrespective of ownership. Yeah? So, once again, in some ways I think it's absolutely quite extraordinary that no one has challenged the legal and constitutional validity of this. The land belongs to me. The area which has been called forest or has a number of trees which I have lovingly protected, because it conforms to the dictionary definition of forest, I no longer have a say. Someone in Delhi decides and gives it to a company to, a dam company to submerge, or to another factory to destroy, or to do whatever. And I am nowhere. I am nowhere. Huh? And the thing is that in addition to the fact that these are inhabited landscapes, there is also a huge complex diversity, legal complex diversity of rights and tenures which exists in these lands. And once again, it's quite extraordinary. 1980 FCA overrode all those laws. You take the Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act, you take the Santhal Pargana Tenancy Act, you take Schedule 6.
Interrupt you. I want you to help us to understand how do we either we reject forest clearances completely, or if they exist, what do we do?
I think we definitely need to radically reorganize, rethink forest clearances. We need to democratize. The one major change which the Forest Rights Act has brought, for the first time it brought people in. And now, today, it is actually illegal to remove anyone or to deprive anyone of their rights from forest land till their rights have been recognized and till, as per the Ministry's own order of July 13, 2009, that till the people have given their informed consent with 50% quorum in Gram Sabha meetings. Now, why is the act being violated right, left and center? Where is it being considered? I think that's one of the major things which even in your analysis of all these clearances, We didn't find any mention of that anywhere.
Can't find
And I think we really need to highlight the illegality of all these forest clearances, because people are nowhere in the picture. And now it is illegal. You know, even that ambiguity is gone. The second thing is that with the Forest Rights Act, and till now I think the most dramatic case we've had, where the Forest Rights Act actually helped save the Niyamgiri hill, right? And what was it? It was ultimately the protest of the local people who were always treated as encroachers, whose rights are never recognized, who are the enemies of the forest. Until you bring in an alliance with the local people, and I think the major thing which needs to now be re-examined. See, under the Forest Rights Act, you have rights recognized both on individual land as well as community forest resources. Okay? Now, the law says that without their consent, or the order says MOEF's own order. Firstly, I think that order needs to be made a part of the rules under the Forest Conservation Act. Give it legal, much stronger legal status. Because they just keep ignoring it as if, you know, it's a piece of dirt, paper. That's one. The second question which arises is that if your rights are recognized, you take Mena. They now have statutory rights over their forest. How can the FSC sitting in Delhi decide to give away their forest to anybody? How can, in any case they are doing it in the northeast, they are doing it in Jharkhand, they are doing it in many other places where people have legal rights. The northeast Schedule 6 areas, they are giving clearances and collecting net present value for somebody else's land and their forests. And then they are collecting money for I think the connected thing with that is this entire shosha of compensatory afforestation. I really feel we need to, totally rethink, probably abandon it, because which land is being brought under compensatory afforestation? There is no land lying around. In the case of Niyamgiri for the time being has been stopped. But as part of the in-principle forest clearance which was granted for mining, they said, 660 hectares of other land has to be notified, and they have done it. They have notified that land as a protected forest. The forest department is going and putting its fences around. That also belongs to the local, in the same area, and they've thrown out some people from there, and that is their customary land. So which land? There are huge areas which are being planned. So that is one. The second, I think, this entire thing of, extending, I don't know how we deal with this, but this dictionary definition, this deemed forest. In UP, I know, under the Godavarman case, there was this thing, have you identified all these deemed forests? So, yes sir, we will do it within 3 months. And then we will hand it all over to the forest department. But what are these deemed forests? They are panchayat lands, common lands. And why? This is a huge land grab has gone on under that. So what it means is, in the process, you not only, totally take away people's resources, you hand over their total control and management to a so-called technocratic agency, which is totally kind of, tuned to this colonial notion of forest management, which is trees. And I think the last point I would make is, as it was pointed out in the morning, what is it that they look at while they give forest clearance? Number of trees, girth of trees, and maybe a bit of wildlife. But trees are not forests, even from that environment. Yeah. So how do we need to have much better, clearer, criteria for determining what is valuable, what is not. And the second is the people. They have, unless, I think we need to look at, how do the people become the major decision makers? Okay, just last point. Forest clearance is the one thing for which there is no public hearing, there is no public process, there is no accountability, there is no description, there is a handful of people, even if you get a good handful of good non-government people there, ultimately who the hell are they?
Very important. No, very important.